This episode of the Model 3 Owners Club podcast is brought to you by Duliban Insurance. If you live in Ontario, Canada, and are looking for the best price and coverage on your Tesla, give Duliban a call at 1-855-385-4226 or visit our website at dulibaninsurance.com/Tesla. Hey everyone, welcome again to another episode of the Model 3 Owners Club. I'm your host, Trevor Page. I'm also joined by my two co-hosts, Mr. Ian Pavelko and Eric Camacho. I had a little bit of a brain fart there for a second. Guys, welcome back. How you been?
Good.
I'm cold and full of snow. I can't actually see out the basement windows right now. It is bottom to top. I should have taken a picture of that and broadcast for you guys, but I'm sad to be here and not in Florida. That's all I got to say.
We had such an epic time in Florida, and I keep thinking about it.
Yeah.
For those of you who are just tuning into the podcast, welcome. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, whether you get your podcasts on an app or you subscribe to the YouTube channel. But if you look at the last episode we did, the show title is called A Show About Nothing. And we literally sit around with Ian and Eric and Michael and Raphael, and we just have just a great old time.
We lived up to the title.
Yeah, exactly. We happened to be on vacation in Florida, so we decided to do a podcast with a whole bunch of us together, and we just ate snacks and just talked about all kinds of stuff. So it went over very well, so we hope to do it again. So I highly encourage you, if you haven't seen that, to go and check it out. So, and then we came back from vacation. We decided to take a little bit of a breather because we all had a lot of fun. We went to the Kennedy Space Center and stuff. So, yeah, we didn't have a podcast last week. So now we're picking up where we left off. And largely because in some ways there wasn't a lot of Tesla news, but lo and behold, this week, everything's just kind of fallen in our laps. So, yeah, we have a lot to cover, so let's just kind of dive right into it. The first one here is the one that's been all over the internet this week, and it is Consumer Reports pulls the Model 3's recommended rating. I'll just bring up the article here. You guys can see what it is. By the way, the link to all of these articles will be in the video description or the podcast documentation if you want to read it. So the bottom line here is Consumer Reports, for some reason, seems to be able to move the markets, which is what this article's kind of talking about here, that the Tesla share price went up and down. But my personal opinion about this, and this is a personal opinion, is other than maybe my mom, like, who uses Consumer Reports to do anything? I've never purchased anything personally of any value, small or large, based on a Consumer Reports recommendation. So I'm rather upset that Wall Street is actually paying attention to this and reacting. It's crazy. Because this is not the first time this has happened. Let's see here. Where's that paragraph? I'm trying to pull it up here. See, the magazine, they're saying here in the article, the magazine similarly went back and forth with its ratings on the Model S and the Model X in 2017, docking points when re-awarding them after the company restored an automatic emergency braking system. We all remember that Tesla put out the software update on the Model 3. And then the Model S lost its buying recommendation again last year when Consumer Reports cited issues with its door handles and suspension. So anyways, the bottom line is that these guys are flip-flopping all the time, and it's just because Tesla makes constant improvements to their cars. It's like by the time they get the story out, chances are the problem that they've had with the car is already fixed. So it just, you know, if you're new to the show and you've reached this, it's a non-story. Really? Guys?
Well,
what do you think?
The thing is, it's like anything else related to Tesla news. It gets a disproportionate amount of airtime and views. Consumer Reports adjust their ratings on all sorts of manufacturers and different models over the years. And I don't hold them so much to task over this. I mean, my initial reaction was like, really? Because the way they had approached it was a little bit clickbaity. But overall, they do it all the time with other manufacturers. It's just because there's, 10 billion sets of eyes on Tesla, and anything that looks remotely like a fault, gets 500 times the amount of attention it should. I think that's all that's going on here. I don't know. I mean, the stuff they list in the there's really only a few faults that they list. I mean, the problems with the rear glass, which have been extensive. I had to have my own changed. That's legitimate. And they were talking about. Sorry, what was the other item? I just had the article up in front of me. There were two items. So they had the rear glass going, and they were talking about a couple of the niggly issues, that had largely been dealt with. Oh yeah, loose-fitting body panels. My God, the gap. Are we going back to Gapgate? I mean, that's employee VIN cars. I mean, that's pretty much done. You see the odd one, but I mean, if we're going to talk about panel gaps, guys, seriously, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah.
I think it's much ado about nothing. They have a way they calculate this based on return visits and number of complaints versus cars sold. There's a whole scientific formula for it, but I think it's the overall media reaction to it which is blown out of proportion.
Mm-hmm. Eric?
Well, I'm someone who has read Consumer Reports in the past. I've used Consumer Report ratings for certain things. Car that I
you're
owned,
one of those guys.
The car that I owned before my Model 3 was a Honda Fit, and that was on the heels of the recommendations that were courtesy of the folks at Consumer Reports. So I have used it before. It's not like it's something where I read it and go, oh, this is hogwash. I mean, am I buying everything I can think of because of Consumer Reports? No. But have I used it in the past to kind of get an idea if I'm buying a product that's of good value? Yes. So with that being said, because they are a nonpartisan entity, they are just an advocate for consumers, and they are, going out, buying these products and giving it their test. They are just opinions at that. And so as long as they're holding everything to the same criteria, then you sort of have a better gauge on whether something is good or bad. That being said, I also know that they're not testing everything for every kind of product that's out there. They're not testing every washing machine, every vacuum cleaner, and every car. So, I know there's a lot of hubbub about this. I don't think it's worth getting riled up as some people would. I think some people read into this way too much, more than anything else. But yeah, we've talked about Consumer Reports in the past in a different story, and it's more or less the same today, which is it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. It is just that group of testers' opinions, and that's all it really is.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what's going on. Don't pay much attention to it. Like I said, I'm just upset that Wall Street decided to take this to heart and adjust the price accordingly. It's just like, really? It's an opinion.
But you can't possibly be surprised, Trev. I mean, upset, I understand. Surprised? No. At this point?
Well, as someone who sort of follows the market a little bit, I'm not by any means a market professional, but like Heinz, for example, after the market closed today, Heinz stock dropped like 20%.
Ketchup, you mean?
We're like the Heinz company, yes, okay. For those wonderful ketchup potato chips that are available in Canada, which is a godsend upon the masses.
Did they discover a large gap between the cap and the bottle now?
Right. There was Ford had announced today through an SEC filing that they too also, like Volkswagen, had maybe fudged some figures with their emissions testing. There's always going to be, anytime there's any kind of news story from a company, whether it's good or bad, the market will react accordingly. When, if you follow sports at all here in the United States, Zion Williamson, who's a player from Duke University in North Carolina, he had an incident last night where his sneaker basically just fell apart as he was playing the game. Right. So, and Nike stock took a hit. Like the tiniest, most ridiculous stories we can think of affects the market. So it's par for the course, if you ask me. I think it's stupid. I think people overreact to some things, but this is what we've come to know in America for how companies overreact, and people look at that and go, "Oh my God!" And now the stock dropped $1.07. Oh no!
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, on to more interesting things. Our second article tonight is on the Ark Invest podcast. Had Elon Musk. Hopefully some of you have had a chance to listen to it. Ian, I know you did, so I want you to take point on this because there was some really good information on there as far as, well, the whole podcast was really revolving around autopilot and where Tesla stands with that. So go ahead and tell us what you think.
Yeah, I hope you put a link to it, Trev,
Oh,
at
I
the end
will.
of the
Yeah.
show. Yeah, good. Just so everybody can easily find it, because that was a good one. Elon was on fire, man. He was on his A game. He was just bang, 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 rattling off the facts. They had a lot of fun with it, and some interesting stuff. I think the main thrust of it being autopilot and full self driving. That's really what they're talking. The episode's called "The Road to Autonomy," and the first thing that struck me was early on in the show. Elon says that the feature component of full self-driving will be complete by end of the year. And there was no Elon time on this. He says that's a certainty. He said that with like great authority. So I tend to believe him on that one. So when we say features, I assume we're talking about the hardware, firmware, software, whatever in the system. Of course, there's still the learning aspect of it, right? The hive mind still has to look at all the corner cases. So that's going to be ongoing. So the second part of that statement was, well, when will it be good enough that the regulators accept that? And here he wasn't able to give a firm answer. His position was, well, look, there's so many different regions and they each have their own sort of requirements, but he says we're going to have to attack them one by one and present the data. And at some point, hopefully, in the near future, they'll have sufficient data to be able to convince them. In terms of when he thought Tesla themselves would be comfortable with the car being full self-driving, in other words, get in the car, go to sleep, wake up in another city, 300 miles away.
Yeah.
He says by the end of next year. So by the end of 2020, he feels that Tesla will have done enough testing with it, that they'll be confident in its capabilities, to present to regulators. So that's about the firmest we've seen, because I think we've all been scratching our heads, when is it really going to be ready? And those are two pretty solid goalposts, if you ask me, in terms of how it's coming along. There was quite a bit of other stuff in the show that I thought was interesting. He mentioned they talked for a while about how the users are important to the whole EAP system, in terms of it learning from people doing corrections on the road, and how that stuff is constantly being fed up into the hive mind, and the system correcting. So they actually asked them, well, what about incentivizing users? And I thought that was funny, because we've joked about that as a group, well, what if, instead of having the referral program, we can get autopilot points, drive more miles, kids, on autopilot, and win prizes, so who knows, maybe we should start pestering them for that. But yeah, those were some of the big takeaways for me. Trev, you've listened to it. What were some of the things that you observed or took from?
I think the one thing that really interested me was his talking about what the industry calls disengagements, which is, if you look at basically any company out there that's doing self-driving technology, whether it's Waymo or Uber and the other guys and stuff, that they have there is a reporting facility where they actually report on a regular basis, kind of their findings. And Tesla is nowhere to be seen in here. And a disengagement is basically when the driver has to take over from the ADAS system, that's the automated driver assistance system. That's what it's known as in the industry. And that disengagement has to be reported. Now, Tesla hasn't been reporting that because they're not running a company-wide private fleet. They're actually using users to do that. And when he was talking about disengagements, he said that's when the system will actually record, because it's always buffering video, and they send that video of the disengagement up to their system so that it can train and they can look at the corner cases. So basically, Tesla's not looking at autopilot data constantly. They're using the fleet system to actually watch for, oh, this person took over, and they can look at the data and see, like, where was it? Not who, because they say that they don't capture that data. But where was it? What were the conditions? I mean, he mentioned weather and stuff. So I think when he's saying that, I kind of agree with what you're saying, is that they're quite advanced. What they're doing is they're spending most of their time now on the edge case stuff, like the really, really hard stuff. He mentioned, trying to be as reliable as possible, of course. And, you got that chain of 999s, like how many nines you need to be afterwards to be super reliable. And, you need quite a bit. We're nowhere near being able to, jump in the back, fall asleep, read a book. I think ultimately that is the end game eventually, but he wanted to make sure in the podcast that people understood that there are going to be cases where people will have to take over, for safety reasons and stuff. So he has to be pretty clear, because a lot of people, when you say self-driving, they think, well, I can just park my butt in the back. I mean, I experienced that this week when I was at the car show talking about autopilot. People seem to, they think about the end as to our, as opposed to where we are right now. So that was really interesting to me, is just to hear about, what they're doing as far as the disengagements are concerned and how they're kind of tackling it. I think it ties into a question that we'll answer later in the show. By the way, for those of you who are also tuning in, we answer viewer questions. So we'll answer those a little bit later in the show. So anyways, I'll put a link down in the video description of the podcast. You can check it out. Highly recommend it, at least for listening to Elon laugh, because he has a very infectious laugh.
Yeah.
When he has a good time, you can tell. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty good. Eric, you didn't have a chance to listen to this yet, did you?
That's right. I haven't heard the show
Okay,
yet.
so we'll reserve comment on that one.
Just last quick point on that one, Trevor, that I thought was cool is he acknowledged that apparently several automakers are now taking advantage of Tesla's open patents. Now, I don't recall myself hearing that. It'd be interesting to know who and exactly what is actually been getting out there into the rest of the automotive
yeah, thanks for reminding me. And that was a point that was, and I forgot to write it down here to bring that up, but because they had mentioned about Tesla's patents, of course, and everybody assumed that nobody had used Tesla's patents yet. He even said that they were open to them, other manufacturers, using their data in their system for autopilot, as long as they don't overburden Tesla with changes, because typically in the industry, manufacturer come, and it's just like the cell phone industry back in the day. Oh, we'll take that cell phone, but we want this, and this added to it, and Tesla's not interested. If you want to use it the way we intend it, fine, you can use it, but we're not making changes because we don't have those kind of resources. So that was interesting. We'd never actually heard that before from Tesla. So
yeah, that was cool. And same thing with the supercharger network. I mean, that door we've known publicly has been open for years and years, and it still blows my mind that no one's approached them. Like, why?
Well, I think it goes back to what he said about autopilot. Don't bother us with changes. Use it as we intended, because we don't have the engineering resources to make changes just to accommodate you. You either use it or you don't. And that's, I think, largely that's why we haven't actually seen anything on the market yet, is because they just, still working on it.
Yep.
Bollinger, the guys that make the off-road truck, have approached Tesla, at least publicly.
I saw that.
Right?
I hope they do it just to prove that this can work.
I agree.
That would be nice to see another manufacturer on board with it.
I agree. Okay, the next article. Fossil vehicle sales are officially now decreasing in China, Europe, and the U.S. This comes courtesy of Clean Technica. I love these guys. So here's the article. China is the world's largest auto market, and things are changing. They got this chart right here. They're showing here the light vehicle sales in 2017, 2018. EVs are growing, and gas vehicles are shrinking. Now, this is no surprise to us. Model 3 has been decimating the market, of course, in the EV space. So, I want you guys to chime in here. Tell us what you think about this.
Well, yeah, China is the big success story right now. Their EV sales from 2017 to 2018 have more than doubled. Meanwhile, in all three large markets, in the U.S., in Europe, and in China, the sales of ICE is now starting to decline. So this is it, kids. We've hit peak ICE. It's unless something big happens and there's some reversal in the next year or two, but I don't think that's going to happen. We've been doing a lot of forecasting at my company, and we're thinking overall vehicle sales are probably going to shrink for the next year or two at least, but the EV sales are going through the roof. So you've got China that's doubled, the EU that's gone up at least 25% in EV sales year over year, and then in the US market it's increased of about 80%. So it's pretty much the direction we're going, man. There's no turning back now.
Yeah, that's a sentiment I had when I was at the car show this week. I'm seeing it not only from the people, but also the manufacturers. One of the observations when I went to the Toronto show is that in the past, most of the EVs used to be at the back of the booth, and now they're front and center. Kia has a whole section just on EVs. Now they have 3 that they're showing, but they are front and center. I also went over, I mean, the e-tron, the EQC, so they're coming out of the woodwork. This is the start. Hopefully next year, the big number that we've been talking about for many years now, 2020, is where we're actually going to start seeing some of the other cars come out. So they still got a long ways to go, though, because you can't replace an ICE fleet overnight. It's going to take, you know, a generation to get that done. But, and, you know, you got, you know, some countries in Europe that are banning the sales of ICE vehicles within the next handful of years.
Right.
So, you know, the writing's on the wall. I had another conversation with a guy. I was over at the Ford booth, and they had a, it's a funny story, if you'll permit me for a moment. They had a Mustang, and it was sitting on its side, and you could see all the stuff underneath. And there was an older couple beside me, and I just kind of joked, and I said, you know what they need to do is rip all the guts out, put electric motors in there, big battery, and watch this thing go. And the older fella turned to me, says, I'm not interested, and it does the vroom vroom. And I said, have you driven an electric car yet? You'll forget all about the vroom vroom. And he says, well, I don't know. And I said, and I turned around and I said, you do know they are going to make an electric version of the Mustang, right? And he says, oh. Funny story.
Yeah, I'm sure that didn't go over well. I always tell people, look, man, I'm sure somebody will make you an app if you really have to have the sound.
Well, the i8 has fake engine sounds.
Yeah, no, I know, and so does the Jag, the I-Pace. I freaked when I drove it. It's like, what the hell is that? It's digital sound. You know.
What has often baffled me are the people who are such car enthusiasts. You know, they're the folks who say, listen, I got to have a car that does the traditional things, the sound, the pedals. You know, I don't want all the buttons and doohickeys. And I say, okay, 2 things. One, if you're carrying around a smartphone, you've already gotten used to having advances in technology. It's not like you got a phone in your kitchen with like a 50-foot cord. It's all tangled up and bundled up that you can walk around your entire house tethered to this one line. Like, no, you have the ability to be portable. You can actually be on the phone wherever you'd like to be. But more importantly, and this is something we talked about before on the show, which is cars nowadays have so much technology in it that we've sort of inundated. We're drowning people in buttons and dials and everything else, where electric cars just kind of streamline that all away. And people who like a simple, clean interface like they do their phone screens can have that in their car. You know, so it's, you know, I understand people who are sort of like, if you go to like a classic car show, you like to see those old cars. But to me, I'm like, whatever, get over it. We're at the point now where that's where we're changing. And I think a lot younger people are going to be clamoring for this from manufacturers everywhere. And we're seeing more and more sneak peeks of some of these cars that are coming down in the next year or so. So
I will tell you this, on the German side of things, I spent some time.
We had a launch.
On the German side of things, I spent some time in the Mercedes booth, and all of their cars now are getting these big, wide instrument panels that are digital displays now. So the trend on the higher end market now is digital clusters. So needles are going away. It's all going to be digital. And have you seen the Byton car? Like their electric car's got that great big LCD
wall to
panel.
wall, man.
Okay, that's too big as far as I'm concerned. But Mercedes has got one that's almost the width, half of the width of the dash, and that is permeating most of the cars. The E-Class, I think I saw it in the C Series. So it's there. And the other one too is the e-tron. I actually had a chance to sit in the e-tron. And what you mentioned about the simplification of the interior, of course, Tesla started that. Elon, e-tron is now doing that now. They have 2 screens and 1 row of buttons. So they've largely gotten rid of buttons too. So there's definitely a trend towards bigger screens and less buttons, at least on the electrified side of things. So.
And to your point, like the performance of an electric car will take any ICE car and put it to shame.
Oh yeah,
it just does.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've mentioned it previously, which is sometimes those naysayers, once you get them into an electric vehicle, and then they drive the car, or maybe they just ride in the passenger seat and experience what it's like to have a takeoff, then they go, "Well, I might not get it, but that's something." Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've all had that moment. I mean, I live in the world of automotive enthusiasts. I mean, you know, there's 100 of them in our building, and they're all complete nutcases. And that happens weekly at our place. I'll throw someone in the car. It's like, okay, you don't get this, right? Okay, here, just sit down, shut up, experience.
Yeah.
Instant converts every single time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know. Just to sort of put a conclusion on it, I have a foot in both camps. Like I absolutely love classic cars of all types, sports cars, muscle cars, whatever. And I figure if I have enough money, I'd probably buy an old classic car at some point. I was just looking at this month's Road and Track that had a fantastic article on this little closet operation in England that's restoring Datsun 240Zs. That's apparently going to be the next super collectible restorable car.
Really?
Yeah, and I was just drooling over them. It's like, oh my God, that's a car I wanted since I was a kid. So those have tremendous emotional appeal to me. But going forward, like in new cars and new designs, I have zero interest at all in ever going back to gas. I could see owning an old classic because those cars have the purity of design and the emotion and the sound and everything about them. Yeah. But going forward, no, I don't see the point.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Okay, next article. Tesla is nearing 300,000 Model 3 registered VINs. It's important to remember. It's important to remember that VINs do not necessarily mean production. Tesla registers VINs in advance of production. There's a website out here called Model 3 VINs, and they track this information. Here you go, I'll bring it up. So right now, as of February 21st, Tesla has registered 294,869 Model 3 VIN numbers. If you look at the chart here, you'll see that, let's see here, total registered, and they have a breakdown of all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. All-wheel drive had crossed over the rear-wheel drive variant of the car, and it looks like Tesla is switching back over. So I think most of the deliveries in Europe have been shipped over. I'm surprised people are still tracking this stuff. I mean, Bloomberg is still doing some of this stuff. What do you guys think? I mean, this thing's a bona fide hit for sure.
I'm actually curious as to what the model breakdown is in Europe. I haven't seen a lot of data on that. I've seen a lot of performance cars. It seems to be a lot of the people, maybe it's just luck of the draw, the way I've been seeing them on Twitter and other places where they're talking about, their experience and how excited they are to get the car. But I see an inordinately high number of performance cars. And I'm thinking, well, logically, if you're going to start with deliveries, and you want to keep the margins up, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's got a lot to do with it. But then how it pans out in terms of how the model mix is going to be going forward, not only over there, but here, very curious to see how that's going to work. Because I got to think there's as much demand, for the standard range car there as there is here. So how are they going to play that out? Who's going to get what percentage of the mix going forward when the car becomes available? And I have a lot of questions on that.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about standard range car a little bit later in the show.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't want to go any further on that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The next one I pulled actually came off the forum. There are a bunch of guys that are following the progress of the switchover to, not the switchover, but the addition of the CCS plugs over in the European market. And Tesla has, as of today, is it today? I think it's today. Yep, I got it here in front of you. Here you go. 70% of the superchargers in Europe have now been converted, or CCS chargers have been added to it. So Belgium now 100%, Luxembourg 100%, Portugal 100% are all switched over. Denmark is currently sitting at 91%, Austria 95%, Germany's 92%. So Tesla is moving very quickly to get these superchargers and the markets that the Model 3 is available in switched over to handle these new cars. This is awesome news. I didn't think they would move this fast. It was looking a little slow there for a while towards the start of the year when they just started switching the plugs over, but of course, nothing has been switched over in England yet because, of course, the cars are not available there. So as soon as those cars start shipping, I would suspect they will get over there and switch them over. I know some people are asking online whether Tesla is going to add CCS to North America. There's always a chance they could do that, but right now, I think because the charging standard in North America is still very much the Tesla plug itself, I don't think there's any need for them to switch over unless they change something in the future for some other cars, whatever. So it's all good news. I mean, they're moving very quickly on this. I'm very surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good news for our European friends. Moving along, let's talk about here. There's an obscure Easter egg in the Tesla app. For those of you who are big fans of Back to the Future movie,
I want to know who isn't a big fan of that movie.
Well, if you're,
and I want to have a word with them if that's the case.
Exactly. So basically, and I haven't tested this on mine, but basically, if you're in the U.S., drive your car till you hit 121 miles. Go into the Tesla app on your phone. This has nothing to do with the car itself. It's in the Tesla app. Tap on the battery at the top, and magically you will get a pop-up screen that will say, something along the lines of flux capacitors enabled or something like that. And it literally changes everything in the app over to references to Back to the Future. So 121 is 1.21 gigawatts. I don't know if he ever pronounced that properly, but that's what it is. Anyways,
what the hell is a gigawatt?
What 21 gigawatts? Anyways, it's a fun little Easter egg. I'm going to try and find some time this week, maybe if I get brave enough to run my car down. I suspect if I hit 121 kilometers, it may do the same thing too. But I'll have to test it, maybe switch it over to miles and see if I can get it to go that way. Either way.
Team Canada has to do some research on this because we've been peppered with questions. Does it happen at 121 kilometers?
As we're taping this show, it is now 8:54 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, February 21st. And the Stage 1 rocket has landed on, of course, I Love You.
Yes.
Nice.
Third time that core has flown.
Yeah,
right?
we're space geeks all the same. We mentioned at the top of the show, we went to Kennedy Space Center when our friends from Canada were down here visiting Florida. A group of us went. It was a great entourage trip that we had. But we're also space geeks. And so tonight, when we're taping, the SpaceX just launched a rocket for the third time, and it's had its third successful landing back here on Earth. So
of the same one.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm done the podcast, I'm going to go and watch
Nice.
the feed again. So unfortunately, we went down to Florida, went to KSC. We were hoping to possibly see a launch, but of course the Demo 1 flight has been delayed until early March, so we'll have to watch that online. Of course, Eric, you're in a position to perhaps be able to drive up if you have to, and you can actually watch it.
Oh boy, goody.
So we'll watch that with bated breath.
Yeah.
So anyways, basically there's a lot of references to Back to the Future. It changes your car no matter what car you have into a Model X. Anyways, a lot of fun. Go ahead and try it. It's non-destructive, and you can do it at any time right now. You don't need any particular software update on your car. It's just built into the app. So lots of fun. Again, Tesla engineers like to have fun, and this one was really obscure. I think it must have leaked because nobody found it until somebody saw it. So they spent some time on this, and we're just waiting for somebody to find it.
Now, I want to know, how bad do you think the dev team wanted to make that activate instead when you hit 88 miles an hour in the car? I mean, for obvious reasons, they couldn't do that. But how bad do you think they wanted to do it?
I can imagine.
I just got
88 miles per hour.
Now, somebody's seen the movie many times.
Oh my God, it's one of my favorite movies all time.
Me too. Gosh, yeah. Let's not. This is not a movie review show, but yes, go ahead and watch it. Lots of fun. All right, we need to spend a little time here and talk about Sentry Mode. Now, unfortunately, Ian and I do not have it in Canada because it's U.S. only at this point.
Yep.
Eric, you have early access now as part of the referrals, but you have yet to see it. So all we can see...
I have not seen it yet. I don't know if it's one of those updates that will come to the car only when you're on Wi-Fi. There's no indication of that as of right now.
Yeah.
I try to keep my car on my home Wi-Fi as often as I can, but so far I've had no luck getting the update.
So I will say this, if you want to see how Sentry Mode actually works, I highly recommend you look at the Tesla YouTube channel, Tesla Raj. Shout out to Raj for doing such a great couple of series of videos on the whole thing. When he first looked at Sentry Mode and did his video, there were several bugs in it. Namely, the warning chimes for the blind spot monitoring was rolled into that update. That didn't work. There were a few other things too. I mean, the release notes, I think, made reference to rocking the car. That didn't seem to do anything. Pounding on the car activates it. If you have dog mode enabled and you get Sentry Mode, it doesn't go back into dog mode. Now, Raj does relate that they did send out another software update shortly, I think almost the day after that, or 2 days after, that fixed some of those issues. I think there were 5 bugs and they fixed 2 out of 3. And I think there's yet another software update or maybe not. I think he just tweeted something about today about the warning chimes working for the alarms on the. So, anyways, it's not bug free yet, but it is a step in the right direction, and I'm hoping that it helps catch some of the or prevent at least some of the break-ins that have been happening, of course, because it is rampant down in the Bay Area and San Francisco.
Yeah, and those Cookie Monster thieves, you better watch out for those guys too.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it yet, look up the Tesla. Their little mini promo on the Cookie Monster. That is epic. Yeah, I died when I saw that.
So I'm hoping it fixes some of that stuff. I did put out a tweet. I think it was yesterday. The Fremont Police Department had caught 11 suspects, part of a crime ring or something like that for car break-ins. I'm hoping some of those people were responsible for some of that stuff. But
yeah.
Regardless, if Sentry Mode, the fact that it actually records and puts out alarms in the form of obnoxious music, because let's face it, we've become rather desensitized to car alarms. So if they put this obnoxious music in and this information spreads to the crime community as fast as the fact that you can break in these Model 3s without setting the alarm off, hopefully it'll put a stop to the whole thing. So I hope anyways.
One does hope, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will talk more about Sentry Mode once the rest of us plebes get it. Some of us are more privileged than others. FineLab has a line of protective coatings that were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. FineLab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the do-it-yourselfer and professional detailers. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com, that's spelled FEYNLAB, to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. FineLab and Tesla, we were meant for each other. Let's see here. Another article. Sonic Automotive President says Model 3 is getting in our shorts. This article comes to us courtesy of Teslarati. So, Eric, you want to talk about this real quick?
Well, I saw the story today, courtesy of our friends at Teslarati. And what's interesting about it, so this is the president of the third largest auto dealership in North America. And it's impressive because this is really, his, a high-level position executive essentially saying that we're aware of what the impact is on the ICE market because of electric vehicles, specifically referencing Tesla. So the question was posed to him about Model 3 and insofar how it's affecting sales of BMW and Audi and other luxury brands. And for him to essentially just sum it up and they're making an impact. It's something they're cognizant of is really, really important because that goes to what we've been talking about on the show a number of times in the past, which is that electric vehicles are here to stay. And for Tesla to have done what it's done in the time that it's done it, and essentially put all the naysayers to sleep, even though they're still out there trying to put fuel on some imaginary fire they're creating. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to tangible figures, when it comes to actual trackable numbers, folks like this gentleman have made it a point to say, no, it's really real. It's having an effect on what we're selling. So hopefully that'll encourage them to encourage their automakers that they work with to have more electric vehicles in the market as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think these guys are going to have to adapt, whether they like it or not.
You think? Yeah.
Well, remember, these guys are franchise dealers. They don't have access to the Tesla cars to sell. So I'm sure they want a piece of that pie, which is probably...
I bet they wish they would. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Tesla's, hurting other manufacturers in some ways. All right, moving along. Moving along. Let's see here. I want to talk about the very briefly the video that I did this past week on the standard interior Model 3. Now, when I did the video, a lot of people commented, and if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link down in the video description. You can see it. They said some of the comments were saying, well, there's nothing really new. You're just spitting out what was on the Tesla website. Yes and no. You have to understand what Tesla puts on their website doesn't specifically say what the standard interior has. It just says what the premium interior has. Now, you can make some conjectures as to what they're going to pull out, but I have a source who's been very reliable, who gave me some specifics. Now, I'm not going to rehash them all. You can go and watch the video. I highly recommend you do that. But one of them was the fact that the center console, I want to talk about this real quick, because the center console apparently will not have covers. So, you have the armrest and you have the two covers and then the phone dock and stuff. So apparently that's not going to be present. I don't know what that's going to look like personally, unless they change the center console to make it a little more like a yacht floor that it was in the Model S originally. I don't know. So some of the specifics that were in there were not known. Things like, we knew the seats were going to be manual. However, I was told that the power lift is going to be there. Everything else is going to be manual. Everybody assumed that everything was going to be manual, but it's part and part. So we'll see how it plays out. The other little bit was leasing. Now, there was an internal email that was floating around. I think the guys at Electric got a hold of it, whatever, talking about leasing on the Model 3 that was going to be available within 2 weeks. Tesla's refuted that. I was told through a source that it's still a few months away, so it's not going to be 2 weeks. It's still a little ways away. Remember, Tesla right now can sell every car that they can make cash. There's no need to do any kind of leasing. Leasing is... you have to look at it from the book's perspective, as far as they're concerned, is a liability. They want profits. Leasing doesn't help that too much. But they do realize that people need to be able to lease cars because, let's face it, most of the car sales in North America are leased these days. So I think they do recognize that they have to offer a lease. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. So my predictions, probably around the time the standard Model 3 probably arrives, maybe a little bit later or something like that. But definitely, I think, by the end of the year. Any thoughts on that before we go on?
I agree.
Okay. Good for me. All right. Before we end the show, well, I'm not actually in the show because we're going to get in some viewer comments and questions. 2 PSAs. Number 1, check your loot boxes. If you have referrals, check the loot box on your Tesla app, because February 28, which is next week, is the last day that you can claim any of these referrals. And if you don't claim them, they're going to go bye-bye, and you're not going to get them. So if you haven't done that yet,
or you're going to lose.
Yes. So you
want that amazing hat? Get your hat. You want to get your Model
picture into
S
space?
For your kids? Do that too. You want to get your forged wheels? Get in there. Just open the app. So real quick backstory. Earlier this week, I went ahead and went to my app, and I was trying to get the hat like last week, and the app was just not working very well. So I tried it again the other day this week, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, what is this? And I had all of a sudden some more rewards in my account. I was like, well then, alrighty. So now I have the option to get the software updates and all kinds of cool stuff. But yeah, go in there. Make sure if you do not claim them, they're going to go away. And if you worked hard to get people into the cars and you got those referrals, make sure you take advantage of the time that you have. Just get in there, tap the thing, get your address, submit the stuff what you got to do. Just make sure you do it before the end of next week.
Even if you don't think you have referrals, check the loot box anyways. You may have gotten a referral and you don't even know it. So, yeah, that's our PSA number 1. Second PSA, Model 3 snow chains for the 20-inch wheels, mainly the ones that are on the Performance Model 3, are available in the Tesla shop. So if you want a set of these, they're $290 US. It only works, again, on the 20-inch wheels that are on the Performance Model 3. You can still get snow change for the 19-inch wheels if you order the sport wheels on the Model 3. Those are available on the site as well. So if you need those, God forbid, you can buy them. They're available. Okay. Well, we come down to the part of the show that we really like, and that's answering viewer questions. So let's jump in here. I know you guys have been active in this here today, so some of it might be repetitious, but that's okay. Go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say, I tried to rattle off as many of them as I could. We should maybe just go over some of the answers for people who don't have Twitter or didn't see them or whatever, so we can probably run through most of them briefly.
Sure.
But I don't actually have them all on the screen. Trevor, you're just going to rattle them off for us?
Here we go.
There we go.
I was going to say one thing I do want to add here. Sometimes we do get questions that are very specific to the person who is asking it, and it's not a question that would apply to a lot of our listeners. That's okay. We try to answer as many questions as we can, both on social media and in the show. But again, if you have a question that, even if you think it's not going to be a very popular question, maybe it's specific to you, that's fine. You can always just ask us on Twitter. Let us know that, hey, listen, I'm fine taking this answer offline. We're always happy to answer questions, even when we're not doing a show, like we haven't done for a couple weeks. But yeah, just bear in mind that sometimes these questions may not apply to you, but it does affect at least a good number of members in the audience.
Sure. Well, I'll take the first one. One of our Twitter followers, Kenneth K., asked, if autopilot option is not selected, is there just a standard set speed cruise control available? And I answered, I said, well, I'm hoping you mean enhanced autopilot. Then yes, basic cruise control is included with every Tesla. This is a bit of a confusing part because Tesla doesn't specifically say cruise control. They mention cruise control or traffic-aware cruise control as part of enhanced autopilot. So a lot of people seem to think that you have to buy enhanced autopilot in order to get cruise control. The answer is no. If you don't buy enhanced cruise control, you'll get basic cruise control, which is set a speed, that's it. Enhanced autopilot gives you traffic-aware cruise control, which activates the radar. So it will lock onto objects or cars in front of you and follow the speed, slow out, slow down, and all that other stuff. And it gives you auto steer. The other thing too is safety features that Tesla has, things like automatic emergency braking, the new Sentry mode, that is included with every car as well. That's just part of their package for safety. So I hope that answers that question. So once again, you do get basic cruise control. All right, let's go on here. Let's get another one here. Ian, you had answered Roger G. He says, when I turn on the seat heat using my phone app, all the seat heaters come on. Is there a way to not have them on unless I click on the individual seats?
Yeah, this is fascinating. I'd love to hear back from everybody else who's, been playing with the app since that was launched. What I found was a couple of days into first having it, this has been months now, we've had the feature, when you go in and you start conditioning the car, the seat heaters would all come on automatically at cold temperatures, and so at all 5 positions. Now, if you just tapped the driver's seat, all of the remaining would turn off, and your driver's seat on would go down 1 notch from whatever you had it. So if they all came on at full power at 3 bacon waves, then the driver's seat would drop to 2, and the other 4 positions would drop out. It took me a while to figure that out because when I started goofing around with the other seat positions, you'd get into this strange cycle where they would all shut off, they all shut on. Then I discovered, the trick is just touch the driver's one, bang. It stays on, the others go off. I thought that's super practical. Great. You don't have to go and knock them all off. About a week ago, that seems to have disappeared. And now you have to individually shut them all off. So, the 3 back seats and the passenger, you have to go knock them off individually. So like 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. I don't know why that is or what else they can do about it. I'm not one to rant and complain about it. I think this is definitely in the realm of hashtag first world problems. I have to press the button 5 times to shut off my remote controlled electric seats.
Yeah,
like when we
I'm just trying it on my car right now. That's why I'm kind of looking down here.
But no, I get the question, and I was just as perplexed when this happened. It was kind of like, wow, I thought they had that beautifully figured out. Just tap the drivers once, bang, they all go out. Now you can just set the drivers to where you want it. But not the case for now.
Yeah, this one here, if I put it on 3 bacons, it remembers. If I turn the climate control off and then back on again, it remembers. If I put it at 1 and I turn it off.
No, we see once you've touched it, once you've been in there and you set it, now it's only going to remember to turn on the driver's seat. You have to go in cold turkey when the car hasn't, when the car's been asleep for a while, and then you'll see them all come on, and then check. I mean, Eric, if you want to try it, I don't know if yours would do it in the temperature.
I'm not here to make fun of anyone. I obviously don't have this problem because I generally have never had an opportunity to use it, so I can't really attest to how it works. I do find something of interest that oftentimes when there's been some update to the app, something else that was working before is not working now. It's a rare thing. It could just be that the version I have just didn't download completely. So worst case scenario, if you think if your app is sort of being weird, just delete the app, reinstall it, and see what happens. If it's the same thing, then it's a feature, not a bug.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's good. I might actually try that myself just to see what happens to the seat heaters.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to another one. Ian, you're engaging someone known by The Man. He says, by now it's obvious that Autopilot 2 has some issues, some due to driver and some due to software that needs a tune-up. Traffic aware, cruise control, and summon are most useful to me. Can one activate those two only, or does Autopilot on Navigate have to be active also?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great question. A lot of people don't understand that when you order EAP, yeah, you get both functionalities and they're independent. So the way it works is it's the right-hand stalk, so the shifter lever basically. So when you're driving along, if you just tap it down once, you'll get TAC, traffic aware cruise control, or adaptive cruise, as a lot of people call it. So the car will hold a certain speed if there's no one else on the road, just like regular cruise. And then if you come up behind a slower car, well, then it'll adapt its speed to that slower car. And that's awesome in traffic, because right down to 0 miles an hour, you don't have to monitor the speed anymore. The car just follows whatever's in front of you. So that's with one tap. With two taps, then the car goes into full autopilot, in which case not only do you have the adaptive cruise control, but you've got this the steering, the auto steer is engaged. So now the car steers at the same time. So you can do one or you can do the other. And of course now we have the third level, navigate on autopilot, but that's just really adding the whole on-ramp, off-ramp thing to the equation. Now you have to have EAP in order to have the adaptive cruise. So as Trevor was saying earlier, if you buy the car without the autopilot option, you're just getting regular cruise control. Whereas if you want the adaptive cruise, in this case, that's what the request was for. Unfortunately, that's not an option at this stage. I myself had that request, I thought that would be a cool thing to do in future, is have 3 levels. So basically regular cruise, have adaptive cruise or TAC, and then full, the autopilot option, but I don't know if Tesla's ever going to go there. What I found interesting, though, is if you could just throw that back up on the screen there for a sec, Trev, is we then got into a little further discussion is this gentleman had a concern that, he doesn't seem to have a lot of faith in the autopilot system, like been reading about glitches and braking on overpasses. And I just want to reiterate that, yeah, early days of EAP, there was some really buggy stuff. I mean, I know on the very early VIN car that I rented back in August when I went to California, I on a few occasions, I got the sudden phantom braking thing. And it seemed to me every time you were climbing a hill where an overpass would appear on the horizon, it would detect it as a solid object and it would freak out. And that seems to have been sorted. And I mean, I just went to Florida and back with the EAP on a good portion of it. And I have to say it performed spectacularly well. So I would not have reservations about its performance. And if we can go back to the Ark Invest podcast for a moment, Elon says the data is absolutely indisputable now. Like autopilot is 1.5 to twice as safe as a human driver now. The data on that is solid. Mm-hmm. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's like you can't really have a safety. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. It does the odd weird thing. That's why we have to watch it. But there's no question it's of tremendous safety value, and it works very, very well.
Okay. Just going back to the Twitter feed here, another user, Aya, says, how to buy road hazard warranty tires on Model 3 on the day of delivery. Reached out to Tesla and the tire manufacturer, Michelin Tires, but to no avail. You had answered him. Go ahead and answer that one.
Yeah, this is a thing you're rarely, maybe some brave manufacturer, car manufacturer is going to go out on a limb here and offer that, but I don't see them doing it because it's kind of like if no one else does, it's like the secret pact. It's like, okay, if nobody's offering road hazards, okay, we're not going to do it either, because it's just, it's a cash sinkhole for the car company. And the tire company is certainly not going to do it because they virtually break even on all the OEM contracts. When, you look at the prices that they sell Tesla or any of the car companies, I mean, it's a mass volume proposition for them. What they're doing is they're subsidizing the cost, they're sort of amortizing the cost of their operations by, in some cases, 30-40% of their production goes to OEMs, but it's a loss leader product. So there's just no margin. They don't make enough profit on the sales of these tires to Tesla or other car companies to be able to afford to have an insurance policy like road hazard to replace tires that get damaged. So I don't think it's something you're going to see out of Tesla or anybody in the short term. It's not that, that it can't be done, but I just think as an industry, I don't see anybody doing it, and I don't know of any third-party companies that offer it either as an insurance thing. You can get that on a lot of replacement tires, and a lot of tire shops will sell you a third-party policy to cover it. But directly from a car manufacturer, I don't know of a single case where it's ever been done.
No, I've bought a used car before, and I bought the extended warranty, and it had some kind of component on there, but it's wasted money because I never used it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like it for the peace of mind that it offers, but yeah, you'd have to try and find some third-party warranty company, and when you do that as a single line item like that, it's probably going to be more money than it's worth.
Okay. All right, let's go back to the Twitter feed here. We'll answer maybe a couple more. Yannick Le Tourneau says, or asks, there are rumors that the standard range is going to be a mid-range software-locked battery. Is that realistic? I'll answer that. I'll answer that.
Trev. You go.
No, I don't think so. Just for those of you who may not be aware, Tesla has done software-locked batteries before, but it's only ever been on the Model S where they have much bigger profit margins. There was a time when they had a 75 kilowatt-hour battery pack that was software-locked to 60 kilowatt, and you could unlock it later on for a certain cost. I don't think too many people took them up on that offer because the price delta was just too high. Now, in the case of Model 3, if they were able to do that today, we would have the standard range car, but the profit margins are not there. I mean, Elon's going on and on, of course, on every opportunity saying, we're going to get there, but we can't right now because we got to reduce the cost. The thing you have to remember is that on the surface, it may sound easy. Sure, take the current battery pack, software lock it, off you're done. But the problem is that you have the extra costs of the cells in there, because if you don't know this, on a Model S that has a software locked battery pack, it is a fully loaded battery pack with all the cells. Other battery packs that were not software locked, that were lower, let's say the original 60 kilowatt hour battery pack, it physically had less cells in it. And that's how they're keeping the cost down. So based on what they've done for the Model S and the Model X in the past, I fully believe that's exactly what they're going to do for the Model 3. They just got to get the cost down on the other stuff so that they can get around to making a smaller battery pack with less cells in it. So, like I said, if they were able to do it, they would do it now, but they can't because the margins are not there yet. So, it would be nice if they did that, but I don't think they have the margins in it. You can do that with a car that's $140,000 with a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack and limit it to 75 and hope that some people upgrade down the road, but I don't think the margins are there for them to do that. So thank you for the question, Yannick. If it happens, then great. It's good for everybody, but
no way, no how is that happening. I mean, they're going to be counting plastic slips and screws to get down to the $35,000 car. Adding extra cells to it would be suicidal.
Yeah. There is a documentary, and you can watch it on YouTube, on the development of one of the recent Mustangs internally at Ford. And one of the discussions that one of the engineers had on there was like, they were talking about, well, what if, let's just add this part to the car. Well, that part costs us $1. You multiply that by how many cars that you're making and stuff. We're talking about some serious money here. So it's literally down to pennies. Elon's even said that before. So, yeah, they just can't do it yet. So, all right, let's go on here. We'll go back to Twitter. And Twitter follower named Blue, B-L-U, thank you for the question. When is the standard version realistically going to come out? Of course, we're assuming about the $35,000 Model 3. We've talked about this on the show. I think our best guess is not until at least the third quarter of this year. Personally, if you look at it this way, I know a lot of people, including myself, and my wife specifically, are waiting for the standard range Model 3. I know I get the question all the time. When are you getting a Model 3, Trevor? My wife will be getting the Model 3, not me. All right.
Wait, you mean you host a show called the Model 3 Owners Club Podcast? You're not even an owner? What kind of stuff is this, Trevor?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I still see you getting trolled for that.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It happens. Whatever. Anyways, I made my bed. I got to sleep in that. Anyways.
Yes, you did.
We've talked about this before, and the way I look at it is this. I understand there's a lot of people who've been waiting a long time for the standard range Model 3. Many people who have not been on the Tesla bandwagon thought that they would see the car on day one, and that's just not Tesla. That's not how they operate. I think, personally, as long as there is demand for the high-end margin cars, Tesla is not in any rush to bring out a low-end car. They will milk this for as long as they can. And then once that they see demand has maybe plateaued or slowed down a little bit, and if their margins allow them, that's when we will see the car. That's my personal opinion. It's just, what's the rush? They're selling every car that they make now on high-end margins. They're going into Europe. It's like, yeah, it's upsetting for the buyer who's waiting for the car, but as far as Tesla's concerned, it's margins.
I'll tell you what the rush is. At some point, there will be people with torches and pitchforks at the Fremont factory.
Of course.
That day will come, and I don't.
I mean, not only that, but we're fast approaching 3 years from when the reservations were opened.
Yes.
I think for some folks that's a concern if they're waiting for that car. But also there are going to be some people, if let's say deliveries were to start in the third quarter, then you're looking at the near exhaustion of the federal tax credit here in the U.S., unless for some reason Congress decides to enact a new program. So for people who are trying to capitalize on any savings they can get, if you're looking at from July 1st through December 31st, $1,800 in change in tax savings, which, not everyone would be able to receive the full amount. That does make a difference if they're getting their car in June or if they get their car in July.
True.
So, overall, look, we're empathetic to those who've been waiting this long. I mean, I know for myself, the wait for even getting my car was a long wait.
It's interminable.
I can't imagine having to wait another year, 14 months, 16 months on top of that too. So, it's a question we get asked all the time, even when I'm out and about. Oh, is that the Model 3? Oh, when's the standard range coming? We get asked it. But I think, it's the finish line is very near. It's like running a marathon and you realize, oh my God, I've made mile 22 and there's still 4 miles to go, but you're near the finish line. So, yeah, it's a long wait. It really is. But like I said, I think for those two reasons, that's probably why some people are sort of anxious to getting an answer, because they're still sort of left in the dark about it.
Yeah. All good points. All right, let's go back to the Twitter feed and we'll answer one more question for tonight. This one comes from Steve Fox. Hopefully, guys, you can see this at the bottom here. He says, any rumors on Hardware 3 rollout to owners that purchased full self-driving? Seems like the service centers are swamped. Don't know where they will find the bandwidth to do these upgrades. Well, that's valid. However, anecdotally, and I don't have all the information, very few people actually purchased full self-driving. Because it doesn't exist as a real product yet, I don't think too many people have bought this. So personally, I don't think that for them to do the upgrade on the computer, and largely the computer is right behind the glove box, so we're not talking about something that takes a full day to do here. We're just talking a matter of swapping it out, maybe an hour's worth of work, and then a few miles, of course, you have to do for recalibration of the system on your part when you get the delivery. But I don't personally see this as being a problem for people to do that. I know people are probably going to ask in the comments, of course, because it's something I field on Twitter quite often, is when do I get the hardware? Like, do I need to purchase full self-driving, or is that separate from the computer? Look, the bottom line, oh no, I know what it is. People are asking, should I wait for Hardware 3 cars to be available before I purchase full self-driving? The answer is no. No, because the cost of full self-driving, whether you have it built into the car or whether you purchase it after the fact and you don't have it in your car, includes the hardware upgrade. So Tesla's kind of betting for the few people that have actually purchased it, we're just give them the computer, and then eventually we roll it into the cars. Well, then it becomes real gravy for them, I think. So either way, you don't need to wait. And even if you do, if you want to buy it, the price is not going to change unless Tesla increases the price, which they are wont to do once in a while. So yes, if that's interest to you, I would definitely recommend you buy it right now instead of waiting, because A, you're going to pay a penalty, and 2, you run the risk of them increasing the price if they see demand start going up, because that's just the Tesla way. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this time and again in Tesla's history where price changes occur. Today I'm like, I'm going to get a silver car. And then 24 hours later, wait, I can't get a silver car. Mm-hmm. So if it's available, get it. If you know for 100% you want to get it, order it now. Contact your store and just get it. We mentioned on Twitter how you can sort of get it through the Tesla app, or your Tesla account, and see it there. If you're not seeing it, just call Tesla. Just get a hold of some customer service representative, and just let them know, like, hey, I want to get full self-driving added to my vehicle, and it's just a software addition for now. Once the hardware becomes available. So it'll be, just get it now when you can.
Yeah, just to go back to what you were just saying, because earlier in the Twitter feed here, I'll bring it up. Hopefully people can see it here. Calvin, let's see if I can bring it up here. Calvin Young, a good friend of mine, was asking, it says, about the talk of Hardware 3, is it possible to buy it if I didn't take it with delivery? And I responded to him and I said, well, you can buy it through your Tesla account. And he went through and he says, I can't find it in my Tesla account. I don't know if it's a Model 3 specific thing, but full self-driving is something I can buy. But I have to go into my Tesla account, click Manage beside my car, and then scroll down to the bottom, and it's a separate line item, and you can purchase it right then and there. So if that's of interest to you, check your Tesla account. You can't do it in the car, can't do it through the app. Just log into your Tesla account. Well, unless we have any closing comments, anything going on this week that we need to tell anybody about? Guess not. Cars and Coffee is over with.
I want to just again quickly thank those that came out to Cars and Coffee and to everyone who's been supporting the show. We've had a lot of people in the last couple of weeks say, "Where's the show? What are you guys doing?" We were off last week for Valentine's Day. We appreciate that because we were all able to spend it with our loved ones. But we were all very, very excited this week to be back in front of our screens talking to you fine folks. So once you're listening to us in your cars or listen to us through your other favorite podcast app or you're watching YouTube, we thank you again for being such great supporters of the show. We are so humbled and so appreciative of all our followers and our listeners. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you guys waiting so long for us to come back. Yes, and as a closer, Eric, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the internet if they want to have a chat with you? Sure. You guys can stalk me on Twitter at the handle ECFix. That is ECFIX on Twitter. And Ian, where can people find you?
Two best places are at Ian Pavelko.
Yes,
that would be on Twitter. You can also find me on the Model 3 Owners Club forum under the handle Mad Hungarian. Be sure to hit me up on either place with a private message or just an open thread or whatever you want. I'll be glad to help you out with anything I can. And then finally on teespring.com, you can look up Mad Hungarian Evolveware. And as Mr. Camacho is so elegantly doing here, you'll see the weapon.
Turn around again,
adoption.
Vanna.
Yes, that's it. That's it. And once again from the front, the WMA, Weapon of Mass Adoption Model 3 shirt, which is the latest in the Evolveware lineup. And yes, so Teespring, teespring.com. Trev, I'm sure you'll be good enough to put that in the show notes. And then I'm going to do a little special for our man Earl, the Earl of Frunk Puppy.
Yes.
I am wearing my Got Frunk Puppy shirt.
Yes.
Which I hope you guys can see there.
And I left mine in your car, by the way.
You did. Yes, I know. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out there. So yes, if you go to frunkpuppy.com, you can get this amazing shirt. You can support the Frunk Puppy cause, which I think is amazing. So big shout out to Earl there. Go to frunkpuppy.com, get your shirt. And Earl, I apologize. I was supposed to coordinate a group photo of all of us wearing our Frunk Puppy shirts at KSC, but that was kind of like herding cats that day.
Oh, come on!
We were having too much fun that day.
We were having way too much fun.
So much fun.
So yeah, some of the things fell off the agenda. That was one of them. But I promise, I've got something else in mind. We're going to hook it up. Don't worry, Earl.
We'll make it happen.
We got your back.
Awesome. Well, thanks, gentlemen. And as usual, if you want to find me, you can follow me on Twitter. The handle's at Model 3 Owners. Don't forget the Model 3 Owners Club, m3oc.com, model3ownersclub.com. Online forum is free for you to join. It is absolutely the best place to discuss Model 3. Forget all that Facebook stuff. The forum is better. We have a search function that actually works. And yeah, I want to say a great big thanks to our Patreon sponsors. You can find that at patreon.com/Model 3 Owners Club. They're the guys that actually help pay the bills. And last but not least, a big thank you to our 3 sponsors. That's Evanex, Duliban Insurance, and Fine Lead Ceramic Coatings. We will see you next week. Thanks for joining in, everyone. We'll see you next time. Good night.
Oswald.